Hello everybody and welcome to one more video on big units, and this time it's another 28mm army. After showing you the French army for Waterloo, it's time for the Prussian army led by General Blücher, the army of the Lower Rhine. In fact, it was the army that saved the day, and sometimes it's even referred as the big winner of Waterloo, eventually with some justice, even if the British, of course, and its allies, Belgians and Bavarians, Brunswickers, Dutch, etc., were putting a hell of a fight, and also the French, of course, were putting a hell of a fight. In fact, this army was, when it arrived to the battlefield, it tipped the balance in favor of the anti-French coalition. Well, what I'm trying to do is to have the army in its entirety. What is still missing is, as you can see, there's no artillery, which is in fact the big problem of this army. Fortunately, Perry released already some Prussian guns, which will be added as soon as possible to this collection. But in the meantime, I'll try to tip the balance, again, for the second time in this video, in favor of the British, because the British and its allies is the less numerous army of the three, French, Allied, and Prussian. So they are a little bit. There's a big backlog of British and French units. The Prussian army is complete in terms of infantry. What is still missing is, even if there are already a few cavalry units, I need Landwehr cavalry, which fortunately Perry released recently with a box that mixes Russian and Prussian cavalry, which is nice, which allows you to make dragoons, to make a number of Prussian units, and of course the artillery. Artillery was when I was building most of these things here. Artillery was only available, up to my knowledge at least, only in Kalpa, in the Kalpa brand, which is amazing figures. But I mean, England ordering from England, then came Brexit. Well, things started to become complicated in order to order from there, and I started to make other things. So this army was left a little bit aside. Now, yesterday, in fact, I finished a few more cavalry units and the Soul Jaeger stand that is necessary for this entire army. And well, I decided to make this video. So don't expect to see artillery, as I told you, and cavalry still, in a good part, still absent. So what I am really doing here is having the inspiration of this very nice book by the Napoleonic Archive, and this is why also so many infantry units are here, because in fact the Battle of Plancenoit was played essentially by infantry. And so I use this one as inspiration, also with some references for uniforms and things like that, but that you can get from other places, obviously. And this book is marvelous. I mean, it's relatively rare. I think at least the first edition was only 250 copies. I don't know if this thing continued to be printed or not. But try to get it because it's very good. What I've done then was to translate in terms of Age of Eagles my Prussian army, as usual, as I do with all my projects, to a paper. So this is what is in red is what is already built. As you can see, there's no artillery and plenty of cavalry still missing. To the right side of the paper, you can see many blanks. But to the left side, which is infantry, you virtually see everything complete. So von Blücher's and Gneisenau army was at Waterloo. There are more Prussians. For instance, this is the first army corps that was present at Ligny, mostly fought at Ligny. I have two units of the I'll show you later, of the first army corps, which are not at Waterloo, but they are nice to make because they have the white uniforms of the Berg infantry. And you also have here the Wavre, led by Tillmans, Prussians, the Wavre battle, and I still haven't done any of these, but I'm thinking about making the Prussians in the Russian uniforms, the Russo-German Legion, the there were at least 2 brigades with units from these guys, and with some more cavalry, and this time a little bit more Jaegers. There are a few more Jaegers here, or is it on the... No, sorry, the Jaegers are more here. You have more Jaegers here around the first Army Corps. And in terms of battle, what happened, as you see, we have here the British Army. This is the very nice Waterloo companion, which is my companion for these things, of course. It became a friend of mine. And you see the British, you see here the French, and Plancenois is here. So this is from where the Prussians came, and so a little bit to the southeast, and this is where the French, in fact, got somehow trapped. So let's see the figures and models. So you have mostly biggest contributor to this army is Warlord, because there are plenty of Landwehr units. So I had to paint many boxes, some 10 boxes or something like that, of Landwehr infantry. Second biggest contributor is Perry, because of the line infantry that you can see, I mean, a little bit everywhere, of course, but for instance, here. And then the third is hat industries, because I converted a number of French figures to Prussian statues. I'll show you how I did it later, and even some of their own Prussians that they also have in 28mm, of course. There are some metal also, like this standard blucher, for instance. The divisional commanders and brigade commanders are everything is this thing is Warlord. So you have Warlord, Perry, and hat. There is no Victrix, of course, here. Maybe here there are some victories. Eventually, maybe some of these Landwehr infantry that use the British shackle. Maybe some of them came from the Victrix box. Eventually, yeah, almost for sure. There are some of the shackles that are bent, yeah, a little bit ruined. So yeah, they are Victrix. So 4 brands contributed. Even a 5th brander is here. There are some casualties, markers, and they are coming from irregular miniatures. In fact, I used Scottish infantry with a kilt, transformed with a little bit of milliput or green stuff, whatever. I converted them to the Litevka used by the Landwehr. So you have here several casualties for the Landwehr markers for casualties of Landwehr, and even some for the line infantry. Some of them with trousers taken, I mean, made from the kilt, from the Scottish kilt. I mean, some of the trousers are better than others. Others are a little bit denouncing that this in the past was a kilt. Well, now a little bit more detail. So you have here. Let me check with the paper. It's better and easier for me. Let me place it here. So you have here the 12th Infantry and the 24th Infantry. And everything is, as you can see, Perry. Many of the caps are in fact squashed shackles. The same I did the same with my Hanoverians. That I'll show you later. Because when I was making these, there was still no Hanoverians which were released from I think Warlord, right? Warlord made some Hanoverians, so this cap no longer needs to be squashed from shackles. You can have those figures, but even so, I like to make these things. The 20. So this is a reserve infantry with the gray uniform, and the infantry with the normal blue, dark blue, Prussian dark blue uniform. And this is the 1st Infantry Brigade of the 1st Army Corps. 1st Army Corps, which of course spent most of his energies at Ligny, so it was not in a great shape when it arrived at Waterloo. Now for the 2nd Army of von Pirsch. 2nd Army of von Pirsch is mostly here, as you can see. Okay, you see here von Pirsch, Warlord figures. Jaegers from Perry, more officers from Warlord, metal, and the usual mix of um, Perry. You can see here the very famous, the Lutzau Corps. So it is the 25th Infantry, representing the entire brigade, of course. Here, each of these small units represent a brigade according to Age of Eagle rules, and a normal Landwehr battalion. The command stands, many times they have metal figures from Victrix also. Other times they are the plastic ones. So this is the 5th Westphalian Landwehr. Representing which brigade is, it is the 5th Infantry Brigade of Tipperskirch. So, sometimes I also do, as I did with the French, I do double stands instead of 4 figures 8, which makes a diorama-like group. And over there is a soul. That is the 7th Infantry. Oh, sorry. Here, exactly. Sorry, 7th Infantry Brigade, with the 2nd Elba Landwehr representing the entire battered 7th Infantry Brigade. By the way, as we are here in this corner of the table, you can see the Berg infantry regiments, and they are a mix of, for instance, you can see from this stand here, and they are AJT together with those corporals with normal Prussian uniform. They are Perry next to the hat industries figures. Sometimes I say AJT, sorry, I don't know why. So, and these guys are, let me check one thing. These are proper Prussians, yeah. As you can see, I mean, Perry and hat, you can't see almost any difference. Maybe smaller faces in the hat industries, different kind of anatomy also, but pretty reasonable figures, as you can see. Look at the command stand. Sometimes some officers on horses are placed also to give some color to the unit. And here we have them. Sometimes the officers are on foot. It depends. There are some fifers also and things like that. Well, most of it is, as you can see, hat, which goes very well. In fact, if you look, for instance, if you look here, you see that the Warlord figures are the biggest of them all, and they become a little bit bigger than the hat industries. But in fact, Warlord makes them on the fatty side. Comparing to 20mm, it reminds me Britannia with their 20mm figures, and most of the other brands which make smaller and slimmer figures. But it's a question of taste. I mean, by mixing them by putting them on the table, I mean, you virtually you can't, as you can see, you can't see many differences. Let's go now to the. This is 5th Infantry Brigade here. Now the 6th Infantry Brigade. Again, Perry most of the times, and Warlord Landwehr. There is also the 11th Hussars here, made by Perry Miniatures, French bodies and horses, in fact, with infantry, Prussian infantry heads. I finished this thing very recently. You can see also on the blog if you want. There are some comments on them. Now we come to the Bulow von Danewitz Corps, exactly. The 4th Army Corps, which is the biggest for the battle. You see here two Hussar regiments, the 6th and the 8th. You see here the 13th Infantry Brigade. You have here the 15th Infantry Brigade and the 16th Infantry Brigade. Again, some of the units are reserve. I can see, as you can see by the gray uniforms. And sometimes you have brigades with divisions with, or in fact, divisions, better to call it like this. Divisions with 2 Landwehr brigades and 1 line. Sometimes it's the opposite. Sometimes you have, for instance, here you have 2 line and 1 Landwehr brigade. In this particular 4th Army Corps, you had mostly Landwehr and less line. Again, you see here hat industries, Warlord. And then I also made one thing that gave me lots of pleasure. I was a little bit tired of painting Warlord, Perry, Warlord, Perry. So I started to use these guys. Probably you are not recognizing them. And these, I think, they are French Carabiniers and French Voltigeurs. I made the Litevka with green stuff. And of course, their caps were squashed. And as you can see, you can have a bunch of different figures, and you have very animated stands. Then some blanket rolls placed, made also of green stuff and things like that. And you have some particular active and different stands. Again, for instance, here you have a French officer turned into a Prussian one, of course. Probably a French, yeah, this guy is what? Oh, sorry. Let me check here. The drummer, I have no idea where it came from. Also the color bearer, I don't know exactly from where it came. Well, hat industries turned into Prussians with, of course, with hats from Perry, with their squashed, with the help of fire, of course, squashed hats. Same here, same happened here. These guys, by the way, let me introduce them to you. I was very rude, sorry. This is the Neumark Landwehr, 3rd Neumark Landwehr, and these guys here are the, let me check, they are the 2nd Pomeranian Landwehr. More of the same, as you can see. And you see that stands become very, 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 with lots of movement. Perry heads and hat industries bodies with the help of the green stuff. Same story for the command. There are a few more like this, I think. Yeah, for instance, this line brigade here, which is the 16th brigade, sorry, here represented by the 15th infantry regiment. Let me focus, sorry. Oops. Okay. For instance, this guy here is clearly a Vitrix, I think British if I'm not mistaken, converted into a Prussian officer. Not a very difficult thing to do. And this guy here, I think, is I don't know if he's British, also probably a British guy with a different check, of course, with the blanket roll and things like that. Yeah. Some cuts here and there, and he became a Prussian drummer. Here you have the different Prussian infantry. And the bodies here came from eventually voltigeurs, French voltigeurs, grenadiers, maybe, always with new heads from Perry. There are plenty surplus in the box, so you can toy around this idea. You have here, as I told you before, this reserve guys, 18th Regiment of Infantry from the 15th Brigade. Again, conversions here, and Warlord Landwehr. There is a particularly funny Landwehr unit with British shakos, peninsular shakos still, as you can see here. Whoops, let's try to focus. Okay, here's the guy. Complete conversion, as you can imagine. It is the Silesian Landwehr from the 16th Infantry Brigade, 4th Corps. The guy again is a French conversion. The officer, sorry. So, I mean, the drummer, I have no idea from where it came. Probably, again, hat industries with a number of cuts here and there. The rest of the guys are, of course, mostly Warlord with Vitrix heads. Warlord bodies with Vitrix heads. And they were, these guys had the shackles given by the British around 1813, if I'm not mistaken. Second Salesian Landwehr. And this is it. Still no artillery, as you can see. Everything, I think, is virtually shown. Let's now introduce the big man, of course. Gerbert von, what was his name? Gerhard or Gerbert? Something it was. Well, it was von Bulow, for sure. First name, I'm not really I can't really pronounce that thing very well. So these are also, again, Warlord figures. The two to the one to the center, von Bulow and von Blücher. Sorry, there is an officer to his right, which is again Warlord, and there is a user from Perry also helping to staff the stand. Here it is. So it is a particularly funny army, but also the flags, as you can imagine, give lots of color, right? Prussian flags as well as the Russian are some of the most beautiful in the entire war. Very different from what you generally see, because you always recognize, of course, the tricolor from France and the British flags and things like that. So these ones give a lot of color to a miniature army. So I hope you have enjoyed. This is the Prussians that I have up to now. Let's see if I can add some artillery in the near future. And I'm going to lose some time, of course, trying to make things more even for the British and enlarging the Allied army. I'm thinking about making some more Hanoverians, the Nassauers also, Brunswickers and things like that, in order to have at least a few brigades of each of the different nationalities within the Allied army. Okay, that was present at Waterloo. So I hope you have enjoyed the Prussian army, and see you next with something else. Bye-bye. Cheers.